because I'll walk right out of here and they'll be for central office. Where are you going? Good night. All right. Good evening to everyone. I would like to welcome you to Monday night, September 23rd, 2024, 6 o'clock regular meeting. We can have roll call, Madam Secretary.
Piles,
Present.
Davis,
Here.
Lester is present, Kennard,
Excused.
Evans,
Excused.
McCarthy.
Excused.
We have a quorum at 6:03.
Thank you. Can we stand for the pledge?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We'll amend it. I would like to make a motion to be it resolved that the Board of Education accepts the September 23rd, 2024 meeting as amended. Board, I have added our governance team norms from the meeting with Penny, so those will be under my report, and I will pass those out to everyone. So I want to amend the agenda to add the governance team norms under the Board President report.
Support.
It's been motioned by Laster, supported by Davis. To add, just as we discussed at the meeting, to add the norms. Any other discussion? Roll call.
Davis,
Yes.
Lester, yes, Laster.
Yes.
Motion is approved.
Thank you. We are at public comment. Madam Secretary.
Lorenzo Mosley.
Thank you.
Thank you. Miss Rita Hampton.
Good evening. I'm going to look forward to the president's report on the last meeting we had. One of the things that's sticking in my bonnet, and people say, Rita, aren't you going to move on? No, I'm not. I was reading something about accountability with board members. When the board members are not accountable, and we've been talking about this, I go to those governments meetings, they talk about accountability. Nobody wants to own up to anything. How did we get here? They don't understand that they were the cause. All I'm saying is you voted for the last group that came, not the last group, the group before that. They are now up for re-election. Don't make the same mistake twice. They were talking about the lack of accountability in the school board has an effect on the children's progress academically. I see a board member shaking his head, must have been reading the same thing. So when you don't have accountability, and I go through the neighborhood, because I'm campaigning for my lady and to become president, but one of the things they asked me, they recognized my voice. Did you ever find out why Dr. Edmondson was fired? Why is it possible that somebody that's being investigated, they're still on the board? I said, you know, there's no accountability. We got to have accountability. And we have a couple of people who are running that I recognize. I don't know how the other people have the nerve to run again. I just don't. My mother had a saying, but I won't say it. She said, you have more nerve than a brass, I won't say, but she said it. And I know what she means now. Why would you run again? You did this, you'll do the same thing twice because you don't have any idea what it means to be accountable for the actions that you have done. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Autumn Cersey.
Good evening, Board. I'm here to speak on behalf of my husband, Gable Cersey. And I just want to say that the incident that happened on Friday with the shooting, I had 3 children there. My 2 boys were home for college and a husband there. And when I heard about the shooting, my only concern was that my kids got home safety. I know that he was there as a security guard, but when your kids are concerned, the only thing you care about is your kids. All of the rationale and protocol goes out the window. I know he was there for security, but I said, you get my kids home safe, period. So the next day, my boys wanted to go to the carnival, and they went, and a young man was shot in the head. I'm from Romulus. I graduated from Romulus. I have a home in Romulus. But at that point, I just wanted my kids to get out of Romulus. I was like, let's just get them to Grand Rapids. We took them to Grand Rapids, and I felt relieved because they weren't here. Well, the next day, Tuesday, it was back to school, and I have my last daughter that still attends Romulus High School. And, you know, everybody was excited to get their kids back to school. I was not excited. I had a knot in my stomach to send her back to school because of the things that happened over the weekend. But my husband was there, and I felt, you know, that he would protect her, so we sent her to school. We were okay. Wednesday, I heard that there was another kid. No, I heard that the incident at the carnival was related to Romulus High School. So allegedly, some kids from Romulus High School that was still attending Romulus High School. So that knot in my stomach turned up a notch. Thursday, I heard that not only was one kid shot, another kid was in the hospital and he died Thursday night. And at this point, you know, my daughter was already asleep. She went to school. But I just was on edge from everything that happened the whole week. So yes, I asked my husband to send her home because as a parent, that's just what I felt like. Now, he was released because of that decision. I don't think that it was fair. I feel like if anybody had their kids in that situation and they made the decision to send their kids home, I think that that's the decision that they make. Now, do I think it was handled right? But no, I don't. I wish it was handled better. But a lot of things I wish was handled better here in this community, and it wasn't handled. That whole week I don't feel like was handled appropriately. But like I said, when it comes to your kids, you make the decision that you feel best. So I'm not really asking for I'm just here to speak on the Cersey name because my kids, all of them went to Romulus High School, graduated, honor roll kids, good kids. My husband is a good person as well. And I just want to say that, you know, the Cersey family are God's people. So God has always protected us, provided for us, and he will continue to do that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Jarrell Farley.
My papers. Afternoon, board. So today I'm here on behalf of the student body at Romulus. First, I want to start with security. Now, as we know, 3 of our security guards were let go. 1 was moved to the middle school, which was a very questionable thing that I questioned myself. because we didn't relieve the security guard. We just moved him to a different building. And why I say that is because Mr. Cersei and Mr. Newbell were the two ambassadors in the building who had a relationship with the students. So how do we go from having somebody who we see every day to not being there anymore? We haven't even been in school a whole month, and we have been going through so much stuff. So them two security guards, they had a relationship with the students. The two security guards or three security guards we have now don't. Like they just like today, walked past, didn't even acknowledge any of the students, just walked. So how do we go from having a nice security guards to security guards who don't even acknowledge the students, who don't have a relationship, who doesn't even try to connect with the students? When Mr. Newbell, Mr. Cersei, you can go in the hallway, oh, what's up? They'll crack jokes at you, but the new security guard, they don't even do anything. So I feel like when we build a relationship, the relationship gets taunted or something happens. And I just didn't like it. I had to walk into school at night, and it's just like, wow. I'm usually a spirit person, but I'm just looking at like, wow, we ain't got no more security guards. We got all these new rules, and people at the central office, they just make the rules. They'll never come by to stop. It's only three people at the central office who stop by the high school or even introduce themselves. I didn't like that, but I was really here because of the security. I feel like I would like our security guards back because they had a great relationship with everybody there, and the school just broken without them, and you could tell. So it's a lot of things that I want to say, but I'm short on time, so I want to move. So last Friday I had a meeting with all the student representatives, and one of the questions was that we get stuff thrown at us without even really getting acknowledged of it. It was like, hey, do this, do that. If not, you can go. And it's just like, what about us? We the students, we make the school. So how do you go from making a decision for us without us even being a part of it? I think it was 2 years ago, we got a survey or something. Nobody did that survey. That survey was so long that people just clicking through it. So we don't get enough involvement. When it is involvement, it's online. So it's a lot of things that I don't agree with, but that is one of them. Is we get the stuff thrown at us and thrown at us. We get relationships broken. Then we want to speak about how positive we're doing, but we don't talk about the negative things. And I don't know who made the decision to get rid of our security guards or move our security guards, but I feel like if they truly would have knew the connection that they had, they would have thought again. Because these new security guards, in my opinion, they're just not. They just feel like they're just there for them. They're just there for the money, and our ambassadors were there for the pride and the joy of all of us. So I speak on behalf of the ambassadors and the student body that there are some things that we need to work. Thank you.
Thank you.
That's it.
Thank you for all the public comments. We are at the section of the agenda for a presentation from Mark Graham.
Good evening. Can you hear me? Or am I? Okay. I'm here to present on the grant funding for the 24-25 school year.
Mr. Graham, can you just, the mic?
Oh, move the mic closer. Is that better? Hi, I'm here to tell you about the funding for the 25-24 school year for grants. So this year in grant funding, as at the beginning of the year, we have 4.291513 million in federal grants. A large chunk of that is remaining ESSER, which we have fully spent. That was going through summer school. State funding is 8.607209 million. A large chunk of that part is the at-risk funding. And we have some local grants through the state police for cybersecurity and the COSA grants with the RESA. Some of our bigger grants, like I said, is Title I's one of our largest. At risk is another large one, so is 61U, which is our CTE program we're working on. And we've had large increases in adult ed this year. Our funding for adult ed has almost doubled from about 550,000 last year to almost $1 million this year. Any questions? Oh, and then what else do you want to? I mean, I want them to ask questions.
I have a-
Simple.
Madam President, Okay, so,
Excuse me.
you said that the $4,291,513, you said a chunk of that is remaining ESSER funds, but they've been spent?
Yes, they're fully spent down.
Okay, so this includes reimbursement for those, or I'm not understanding?
So this is our current budget for ESSER. So with 1.4 million, we had remaining from ESSER to carry over into into summer school and our program at the Smart Labs at the middle school. And that was remaining allocation. So we had 1.4 million, which in turn, that's what the remaining budget was. And we spent all that down. As of today, when I look, we're completely spent.
Okay, so summer school, Dr. Edmondson, didn't we hear that summer school was in the 23-24 budget?
What are we in now, 24?
This is 24-25?
So
24.
the budgets
You can answer all that.
always roll forward. So usually summer school is using the 20, so it's like Title I, 23-24 is used in 24-25 in the school year. It follows the payroll schedule. So so our summer school this year was funded by ESSER that was budgeted, which rolled forward into the new year. So the budget
Right, so
rolled-
it was funded with ESSER funds that need to be used by September 30th of this year.
Correct.
Okay, so but we budgeted, so in our 24-25 budget, the year we're in now, we've budgeted for summer school in this current budget, correct?
So next summer school comes around in Title I, and RAG grant will budget in November, December, and those funds will be utilized last week of June, July, August of next year.
These, right, okay. Right. So this year's funding will be used for summer school in 25.
Correct.
Yeah, okay. So, I guess, so we've got the 4.2 million, and 1.4 of that is the ESSER. What are the other sources of federal funds?
Title
Is
I
it the titles?
It's the titles. It's Title I, Title II, Title IV, which are a total of 1.866 million. And then we had a little ESSER reallocation. This was ESSER funding from ESSER 2 that wasn't utilized throughout the state, so they reallocated throughout with 11 BB, and that was utilized too. We were able to just put staffing in there for basically one payroll to knock it out.
So, and then the state sources are the 11 BB, the RAG.
So RAG is another grant that's federal, so is IDA and IDA preschool. Our state grants are below their at-risk, 21H, Section 41, 61U, 97I, GSRP, Section 107 grants, 35J, 23G, and 31AA carryover.
I have two questions, Mr. Graham. Is it possible to get a breakdown of, like how it has pandemic-related activities, teaching staff, like each amount to equal that $1.4 million?
Yes.
Okay. And also, as our grants person, as you look at this year, what is your routine and how do you go about looking for grants for our students?
So we look at what's the greatest need, though. Right now, security is one of the greatest needs, so we're looking for grants. We are also looking at water filtration systems and busing. There is I think it's 12H that has the busing. We're looking at the propane option possibly as one of the options. The rebate they get back is only 35%, so we gotta see if it's feasible to go that route. So that's one option. There's also another grant called Hydrate Grant that replaces all the old filters in the district. So it doesn't replace the fountain systems, but any old filters we should be able to get reimbursed for to replace.
And is there a deadline on replacing all of the water filtration systems?
I would have to leave that up to Jason.
Okay.
January.
So we can,
January.
He just stepped out.
and I guess regarding special services and special ed, how do you go about looking for grants for those students and those services?
So with special ed, our big chunk does come from IDA. there's a lot of smaller grants that are around that are more localized. Patrick had the United Grant this year, which gave students the ability to go on field trips. Most of the special ed grants run through the state already, and they're usually pre-allocated. They're driven by your student count.
So if I can just ask one more like novice question, if you see something out there and you're like, oh, Romulus could use that, regardless of the state kind of allocating the stuff for special services, do you just
Yep,
apply for it?
We don't just apply for it, we make sure we can actually utilize it. It's more of we have to make sure that it fits the plan, when it's not going for bad grant money, I call it. Because you can apply for a lot of grant money, but if you don't utilize it, or if you don't have a plan in place, or a way to keep it sustainable, the money's not worth it.
Thank you.
Another question. So of these grants listed, these are all in Nexus and GEMS Mars, correct?
No.
Which ones are not?
So the ones that are not, so we have ESTER 3 that are in 11BB that are in RAG. CLCGP are through the Michigan State Police, so it's paper form. The math COSAs are in e-time. What else? GSRP is through it's a state grant, but it flows through the RESA, so it's paper
Right.
form.
So I guess, let me rephrase. So all of these are, all of these grants are available for all school districts to apply for and are standard among a lot of schools. What grants have specifically been sought out in addition to these for RCS?
RCS, so some of these grants are, these ones went through the state, but they are competitive grants. 23G, 35J, they're all competitive grants that go through the system. Section 107A is a competitive grant. 97I was a competitive grant. The COSAs were eligible
Through the ISD?
through ISD.
So, okay,
We still have to apply for them.
right, we do, but I mean like the 23G, like that's something that's well-known and and most schools have that. So there's, like President Laster, I was asking to your question when you were talking about seeking out grants that maybe we haven't had here before that other districts don't have. If we could get a list of those, please. Because I know like 23G, we've had RAG, that's all typical. Most districts have those. I'm just wondering what Romulus has that we've found that is unique, that we've sought out other than the typical federal state grants that everybody gets. Well, they don't just get it, but have to submit for. Thank you.
No problem. Any other questions? All right, well, Mr. Graham, if you could just get the breakdown over for the 1.4, greatly appreciate it.
Yep, no problem.
Thank you. We are at the consent agenda. Be it resolved that the Board of Education approves the September 23rd, 2024 consent agenda as presented. Matters listed under the consent agenda are considered routine in nature by the Board of Education, and it will be acted upon on one motion. There will be no separate discussion on these items. If any member of the board or any citizen requests discussion of an item, that item will be removed from the consent agenda and will become the first item of business under the report of the superintendent portion of the agenda. A, approval of the minutes of the Board of Education, September 9th, 2024, regular board meeting, September 16th, 2024, special board meeting, and B, approval of the personnel actions as submitted by Human Resources Director Kevin Brock, the employment of Jalissa Gonzalez, custodian, Monisha Lee, lead tech at RECC. I'm sorry, lead teacher at RECC, Rachel McSweeney, special ed resource teacher at RHS, and Elise Vanez De Leon, custodian.
Support.
It's been motioned by Laster, supported by Wester. Roll call.
Wester, yes. Davis.
Yes.
Isles.
Yes.
Laster.
Yes.
Motion is approved.
All right. Welcome to the new employees. Now we are at the report of the superintendent, Dr. Benjamin Edmondson.
Thank you. First thing I'm going to start with was a thank you. I know you all know that I went to see my father in South Carolina. That was good. That was good for me. It was good for my son. And it was good for my father. I come back with a lack of energy. I am completely spent. I am tired. I got off the plane and I didn't feel well. And it's been like 4 straight days. I don't have COVID, for everybody to know. I'm just tired. And I'm getting over the cold now. But I just wanted to thank the board and even the, the employees here. I kept in touch. But it was really important. That was a really important trip that I needed to make. It was cathartic for me. I've been carrying some things all summer. And to be able to release them to my son and my father was just tremendous for me. Just a tremendous burden lifted. Emotionally, I feel great again. I've just been struggling. Some of you that know me. Why? Know why. And it was just really nice to get that off my back and to share it. To share vulnerability with your father and to share vulnerability with your son. Takes a lot to do that. Took a real lot to do it, but I needed to do it. So just happy to be back now. I have communication I've written down here. This job it's not an easy job. As I said on last Monday, I talked to the board about, compensation. Yes, I'm compensated well, and I appreciate that. That's not what keeps me here. That's not what makes me stay whatsoever, and that's not going to make me stay here because I'm compensated well, ever. I know that I work hard for this district. I know that I communicate as much as I can possibly communicate in this district with parents, kids, families. As I said 2 weeks ago, there are decisions that you have to make that are very, very difficult. They are, okay? Particularly when there are personnel matters. I don't share that with the board because their personnel matters. That's not what you do. But I had a really hard time with some of the decisions that had to be made on a personal level, on a real personal level. Really difficult to make. But if you don't make some of the decisions, and I'm not going to speak specifically, if you don't make certain decisions, you put your own career, it's going to be put out there. Why didn't you? How did you allow that? Why did you let this person and not that person? That kind of stuff. That part is the hard part of the job. But I'm able to do it. I'm able to separate emotionally when I make decisions. And I tell people that that's a blessing and a curse. It is a blessing and a curse to be able to separate yourself emotionally, because I'll say it doesn't only happen professionally, because it happens to me personally. And I feel that that has been a tremendous impediment in my life, to be able to move on emotionally from somebody. It's hard. It's just really hard. And I've been able to do it, and I think it's a blessing. I know he's talking about me when he said 3 of the central office people are there. I know it's me. I can guess the other 2 if I had to. Okay, I'll stand behind that kid any day. But when I went into an elementary school, 36 kids in a kindergarten class. 36 kids. Now, I'm not happy about that, but in some respects, I'm like, oh, that's good. Okay, but people will automatically want you to change and put a new teacher in there. I can put a new teacher in there when we have another class that doesn't have 36 and you have 21 and 21. Then we're going to have to do something. It's not just let's throw a teacher at it. You should throw a teacher at it, but you have to be fiscally responsible too and know that your numbers need to match that number. But my point is, 36 kindergartners, 6 know their alphabet. 6. You should know your alphabet when the time you walk into kindergarten. Whose responsibility is that? I'm not going to just blame parents. Parents don't want to hear me say it. Teachers will say it, and teachers will say it outright. Parents. 36 kids, 6 know their alphabet. What do you expect from me? What do you expect from the teacher? What do you expect from the principal? When you have 36 kids, that's a packed class as it is. And 6 know their alphabet. What do we do about the 6 who have come? They're ready. They're ready. And now there are 30 that aren't. So these are things that I wrestle with. I just wrestle with them. I'm like, I want to be that school district. I want to be that high-performing school district. I need help. We need help. It can't just be me, my staff, the teachers. It can't be. There's got to be there's a huge parental involvement piece that's missing. It's missing. I'm not making any excuses. It's missing. I looked at attendance. I want everybody to know this. I'm glad it's on TV. Attendance. You know what our Achilles heel is? I'm going to ask the board. What is our Achilles heel? Just one. I don't need you to name three. What's one? Attendance. At our elementary schools, we're averaging at least 20 kids absent a day. So I had an email. I had an email ready for them. I had an email, and shame on me. I worked on it in South Carolina on a particular day, and I put, it was 5 p.m. or something like that. I put the wrong date in. I put that exact date, but I put it needs to go out at 9 a.m. that day. I didn't forward it to the next day. I was prepared to say, do you know what it looks like when you have 20 kids that are absent in an elementary school? Do you know what that looks like in kindergarten? That looks like they're not going to know how to add and subtract. They count, not add and subtract. I messed it up. They're not going to know how to count. They don't know their ABCs. First grade, they don't know how to count to 10 by 10s, by 15s, or by 5s, by 10s. Second grade, not able to read sentences. Third grade, not able to multiply. Fourth grade, can't do fractions. Fifth grade, can't do decimals. Swimming upstream. Swimming upstream. And I'm honest, I know this is my time to talk, and maybe I have the bully pulpit, but where do I get my, feeling good about things? I go into schools and I see them. That's where I get it from, okay? I get it from some board members that say, hey, I appreciate what you're doing. I get it from the staff that's working here. I get it from some parents too. But we have a serious problem in this district. We have a serious parental involvement problem in this district, okay? Ask any teacher, they'll tell you. I will tell you because I'm honest about it. It's got to change. We've got to, and I don't know what to do. I'm trying everything I possibly can. People don't read your emails after the first paragraph. They're done. They're done. No matter how much I love writing them. Okay, it's for everybody else to read because you know that I said it. That's what I want you to know, that I said it. But I don't know what to do, and I'm going to ask the board to help me and our staff. If there's something that I can do that I'm not doing, we need to do it because it's having its impact. Again, I need you to understand the gravity of 36 kids and 6 know their alphabet. So think about that parent. I'm going to say like myself. I'm looking to see, where am I going to put my kid in the school? Where am I going to put my kid here? I'm in my local school district. Let me see. No, that's okay. I'll choice into another school district. That's a parent like me, and I'm not saying everybody is savvy like me. I'm not saying that. And everybody, listen, I got commitment issues. I'll tell you that. I'll put it out there. I got commitment issues that go way, way back. It's hard for me to stay somewhere for a while because I have commitment issues. I'm honest and open about that in a way that I've never been open about it before. I have commitment issues. So things like that, I'm like, why stay? People ask me, who's my favorite football team? I don't have one because I've had commitment issues. I don't stay usually too many places, and I go. But when you're making a decision for your child, you need to stay somewhere and be committed to it. It should be Romulus. But we've got to do better with our parental involvement. Has got to be something. And just for parents to know, an easy way to know is this. When your child comes home, do you know the name of the teacher? Do you know how to operate Class Dojo? When you get a report card, can you read it? Do you know what teachers assign what grades? Do you see what kind of homework is being sent home and what kind of work is being sent back to school from your child? Do you spend 10 minutes a day? That's all I used to say as a principal. 10 minutes a day, that's all you need. 10 minutes to work with your child. That's it on any given day. Just give me 10 minutes. All I'm asking for is 50 minutes the whole week. 10 minutes to do multiplication at the table. 10 minutes to read the alphabet, to recite the alphabet and have your child. It doesn't take that long. Just stay off the phone. Stay off the phone. But if we're going to be a high-performing urban district, I need everybody's help here. I need everybody else that's here listening. I need everybody else that's watching on video. Come on, why not us? Why not us? That's what drives me. Why not us? So I'm asking for your help. I already talked about attendance. Our attendance liaisons are coming. We're going to start. We already talked to the judge. We're going to resume everything. It'll start in the beginning of October. I'm not cutting breaks. I'm not going back to zero. You have 7 absences. You know what, where you belong? You need to belong in here on a Tuesday at 6 p.m. meeting with me and the judge and my team. No more breaks. We're here for education, and I'm here for your children. I'm not here for parents. I'm here for their children. Okay? If you don't want to be a part of our team with the level of expectations, then maybe this isn't the district for you. Maybe we lose 10 more parents or something. But heck, I have high expectations. We shouldn't have 5 and 6 absences already. Kids have 5 and 6 absences. A young lady sent me an email, and it spread all around high school. I already know it. Good for her. Sent me an email asking me a serious question, and I appreciated her sending me that question. Appreciate you asking me that question. And I gave the answer, followed by, you've had 22 missing classes. You've missed 2.5 days of school already. And you failed honors English. And if you don't pass English, guess what? You don't graduate. That's what my emails say. When the students ask me something, I'm going to answer them. And then I'm going to take a look at their record. And I'm going to say, if they're doing great, they'll get that from me, won't they? Oh, they'll get it from me. You get something from me telling you how wonderful your child is. 21 absences, classroom absences. 21. What are we in? As I said earlier, this feels like May to me. First time ever in my career where September feels like May. 3 weeks. I'm like, uh-oh. Uh-oh, Ben. Uh-oh. Y'all better watch out for me. I'm telling you, better watch out for me. I don't want to be a downer, but I am. I don't know what to tell you. But I don't see it as a downer. I just see it as, it's just my passion. It's on display. We do have an action item. I brought that up to you before, and I want to be able to explain it to the board. So I came 2 weeks ago, and I talked about the metal detectors, and we're going to order them. I went for the cheapest one, the one that's going to be a hassle. It was the big, boxy ones, the rectangle ones. That is a hassle. So we had originally gone with a company they're cutting edge. When you go to the games, when you go to this Little Caesars Arena, you go to Pine Knob, you go to wherever, those are the ones you're walking through. Real simple. They cost more. Those are the ones that I originally looked at. Then I said, no, let me cut corners and let me go for the boxy ones. When 3 or 4 companies said, you don't want to do that. Your staff, you probably won't even have the staff to be able to man that. So what I did was I ordered 6 of the newest ones. I put 3 in the high school and 3 in the middle school. Oh, they're already ordered. Now, that doesn't mean that I don't care about the other schools, okay? I do care about the other schools. You're just not getting 3, but they're all going to get 1. But I'm coming to the board because I didn't want to look like I cheapened out for the elementary people, and I cheapened out for our building too. We all should have the same level of security. So I'm asking the board to authorize the 5 more that we needed. Maybe it's 6. I thought it was 5, but I'm doing the math now. That's off. Plus here, that would be 6. Be 6 more. 1 for this building, 4 for the elementary buildings, 4 for RECC. And I'm glad I have a good team because I wrestled with this one. And one of my team members said to me, Ben, you know you can't do that. You know you can't go for the cheaper one, and then it looks like you did. And I was like, I know, but I wanted to put it in the budget and get it. And then I just can't do that. I just can't do that. We all deserve to have the same level of security in our buildings. I promise you that the security companies will be working with our ambassadors to address, to make sure that they are properly trained. And the last thing for me is, listen, I love the ambassadors and what they do. I got to make some tough decisions sometimes. I love the relationships that they have. Sometimes a relationship can work against you. Okay? Sometimes a relationship can work against you when you're too comfortable with people. I'm not going to say that's an issue because it's not. But we'll be training, and in this case, if we're down, you have to go to the company and say, hey, put some people in there just so that we have some people now. Give them a chance to work on the relationships. They need a chance to work on the relationship with the kids. Okay? So all of this has been thought out. I mean, and I have wrestled with some of the decisions that had to be made. Doesn't mean that we can't revisit them. That's all I'm going to say. And that's my thought. Doesn't mean we can't revisit them. But sometimes you have to do what you need to do at that moment, and then you can come back and you can address them. That's my report. If you have any questions for me about the action item, I will be able to address them at this point.
Madam President, move that the Board of Education authorizes the superintendent to purchase additional metal detectors and accessories at a cost to the district not to exceed $120,000 as presented. Rationale, student safety, budget implications, 31AA security, general fund, exhibits, proposal.
Support.
And motion by Davis, supported by Wester. Yes.
Dr. Edmondson,
Yes.
can you tell us the difference between the machines that were originally presented for approval versus the improved ones? Are the ones that we're purchasing the ones that don't need to be manned, but you walk through and it
You still have to,
stands?
you still have to be manned. It still has to be
Okay.
manned, but it'll let more kids in. You have the flexibility to move it around. It's not just that centerpiece. We can move it here, move it there. We can separate them. It's a lot of extra things that we can
Okay.
do. That was the one that I came to you originally, and then I flipped. I was like, oh, we need to go cheaper. And then I'm like,
Yeah,
I just
no.
can't do that. But it's much more modern. It's easier for kids to walk through. It's easier for all of us to walk through. You're just walking through. It feels fine. You don't have that box where it's just nicer. You can put your district swag, everything. Are you?
So I can
Oh,
touch
sure,
on that
sure,
a
sure.
little bit.
Okay, thank you.
So the newer ones that Dr. Edmondson's talking about, there's a lot more sensors in them. There's a lot more technology in them where you're not picking up a lot of nuisance alarms like keys in your pocket or Chromebooks. With those older, not older, I shouldn't say older, with the boxier type, you're going to get a lot of nuisance alarms. And that's kind of why you're going to have the need for more staff. The ones that Dr. Edmondson is referring to are specifically designed to pick up weapons, and that's all they pick up.
Thank you. And I know at our elementaries, obviously, there's only one entrance, and visitors have to then go into the office. At our secondary buildings, well, at our middle school, there's the one entrance. At our high school, do all students use one entrance to come and go, or do they use multiple?
So we have Mike Hansen there. That's, Mike that's doing his thing. I believe there's multiple. I believe that there's multiple. And so one of the things that we are talking about, first of all, I talked to the high school team, unbeknownst to everybody in the room and maybe what else has been said. Everybody's aware, okay? I'm not a micromanager. I don't need to micromanage how you run your building, but I will make the decision. I'm like, I am clear on the ends. The means is your choice, but the ends is my choice. So the ends are, this is what we're going to have. The means are how you want to do it. That's on you. You can do that, but we're going to have these detectors here. But we're very aware of how we need to do some things differently. As I sent an email, like, stop opening up doors. You can't let kids in every
Yep.
door. We need to do things differently. So that's the thing that's going to happen now. It's going to force us to do things differently and do them in order and proper in the name of our own safety. So I'm hoping that with their leadership, that I told them when they have to get to me, but I said, you all need to discover to do the plan, what the plan is. That's not my job as the superintendent. That's not my job to run somebody's building, but I am accountable for the ends. So this is what the ends should be. I want kids to be safe. I want visitors that come in the front door. When they come in, we should know. We have somebody that's stationed right there. We should know.
Yes.
The bus drop-off, we should know. Those are the things. Elementary, I don't think we need to worry about. I don't want to say it like that, but I'm not so worried about the elementary kids. I'm worried about the parents that come in or the visitors that come in. So I'm giving everybody an opportunity to have their input on where they think. And we have LaGuardia who will help because I'm not in the security business. That's not my job. I don't even know. I just make them decide on the ends. So we want to make sure that we have sound practices so that everybody knows, because it's pointless Trustee Piles, as you know, like if we have kids coming in all these
All
different
different
doors,
doors, right.
they're skirting through the system, and then the system doesn't work. So that's my intention, is I've already sent them and said, this is how we do it, you all determine. Now, again, as a principal, as a superintendent, I depend on a team. I don't make decisions just by myself. But how somebody else runs their building, that's on them. It's not my job. So hopefully they invite their staff to have these conversations, okay? Or maybe even the teacher or students.
And this amount is for how many additional units?
6. I thought it was 5,
6?
but it's 6. It's definitely 6.
Okay.
'Cause I know it's 6.
Has there been any discussion about purchasing another to keep at our field? Do we need that?
That's why we got them. That's why we have
Okay.
extras. At the middle
So
school, we
we're
have 3,
getting-
and
and
one
one
can
is
be
at the field.
portable
Okay.
to do that.
Great.
Okay.
Just want to make
That
sure we're
was the
covered.
purpose,
Thank
because
you
they
for,
don't need it. I didn't think they needed 3.
right,
But I
but for our
wanted to make
field.
sure that we did that too.
Thank you.
Any other discussion? Roll call.
Davis.
Yes.
Worcester, yes. Piles.
Yes.
Laster.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you, Board. And lastly, because I had it up here and I didn't, you know, as I told the student in that email, like, student government should work. Kids should know how government works. They need to know. That is something that is taught in school, how government works. It should be on display in Romulus at this point, right now, when he got up and he spoke. Our response to him should be what? To me, it's what I told him before. Your student council, you listen to the people, and then you deliver whatever they want or whatever they're disgruntled about. You meet with your principals first. If you want me to be there, that's fine, because ultimately I will make the decision. If you want me to be there, that's fine. I don't ever skirt from kids, ever. Never going to skirt away from kids. I'm not going to skirt away from an adult, as a matter of fact. I'm not going to do that. But student government should be, hey, listen, that they do have some representation. But again, I'm not going to compromise safety, but I will give student voice. Students need voice, and I'm so happy they have Jarrell. I said, I love that kid, because I know he's got voice, and I know that I can sit down and talk to him at any point. So when I see that, his next thing should be, hey, Dr. Pachoda, Ms. Zoltowski, can we meet with the staff, or can we meet with the people that are making decisions for us? Because then I can explain to them why I made my decisions, things that you may not know. This is why I'm going to make. Do you want to, as I had in an email, as a parent, do you want your child to come home from school safely? And if the answer is yes, then you're okay with the decisions that we're making here. If that's what you want, because that's what I lose sleep at. We don't want to lose any kids. But students should have a voice, and that should be taught in their government class. This is how you make your voice heard. That's it. I'm good. Thank you. Sorry for that the length of time. I apologize, President. And you're doing an outstanding job as the president.
No, thank you, Dr. Edmondson. I appreciate it. It was the extra. No, well, thank you. All right, we are now at the report of the Director of Special Services. Dr. Meese, come on down.
Good evening, President Laster, Dr. Edmondson, and Board. How are you? I'm doing great. How about yourself? So, Board, I didn't plan to share this, but I will share this. So, seeing Jarrell up here today was pretty inspiring. A young man who was not afraid to come and speak his truth to power. I agree with Dr. Edmondson that that's something that we want to cultivate in all of our young people, and he's doing a very nice job in his role. I overheard, in fact, I think I was part of one conversation, and it happened informally this summer, where Dr. Edmondson talked with Jarrell and asked him if he had aspirations of being involved in student government. And I don't think Jarrell would mind me saying that at that time, I don't think that had ever crossed his mind. He was kind of unassuming about it and, shook his head. But Dr. Edmondson encouraged him, and I couldn't be more pleased that those conversations have produced a leader like Jarrell. I knew him from our work last spring with Unified Sports, and he was truly masterful in terms of how he worked with his classmates and students at the middle school level who have significant disabilities. So he's a wonderful young man, and I couldn't be more proud of his willingness to share his thoughts, feelings, and beliefs with the board and with the administration. So now I'll address my prepared notes. So I agree with Dr. Edmondson that in my years in education, I can say, and this isn't a complaint, it's just, I think, a reality. It does feel like May. I've never experienced a year like this, and I've got friends in the business across the state, and we are not alone. This is the reality in public education, and I want to commend the Student Services Department and the administrators within the school district. We've had some fairly involved students present with some unique challenges this school year, and I've spent a significant amount of time thus far with the Barth team, and not as much, but a more than usual amount of time with the special education staff at the high school. And I can tell you that despite this reality that's being felt by everyone, that's not translating into anything other than greatness in terms of work that's being done with kids. So obviously I can't share names, but I will tell you that there's a student at Barth who is significantly impacted by her disability, so much so that she was unable to regulate herself or to attend to a task of any kind. To say that the student was distracted would be a gross understatement. Through some collaboration with some ASD experts from the county, through collaboration within the department, and just the encouragement to the staff that it's okay if you don't have all the answers right now. We have to let time be on our side, and we have to take data to see if this student belongs, or to see if the student is best suited in another placement, such as a more restrictive setting. Those meetings haven't always been easy, but I can tell you that this student is doing extremely well in a short amount of time. This student is attending to tasks, this student is following a routine, and she's doing things that, quite frankly, some of the experts thought might not be in her future. And I don't think that those were spoken words, but just looking at folks observe her, I think where she is now and where she was just a week or two ago, we have a lot of reasons to be proud. One thing that I wanted to mention, as you know, a major task this summer was recruiting and hiring. I want you to know that we continue to do that. I met with the high school resource team along with Mr. Petty today. We had a meeting after school, and it was nice to sit around the table with a fully staffed resource department. So we lost some within the resource room, and we're building it back. So the two teachers that we have that are new to the resource program, Mr. Washington and Mrs. McSweeney, they are glad to be a part of Romulus Schools. They're finding their niche, and Mrs. McSweeney told me today that it is refreshing for her to work alongside her counterparts who want what's best for kids, because she said where she's coming from, she didn't always feel that. So I wanted to share that bit of good news with the board. Room 507, big thank you to Mr. Jason Perkins, who has leaded that charge. I was in there last week. The room looks beautiful. If you haven't seen it, if you're at the high school, you may want to pop in. It's not yet complete, although most of us can't tell that it's not done. They're just waiting on final inspections. But big thanks to the team that's been responsible for that work. And also at this time, I'd like to acknowledge two paraprofessionals who have the college credits required to substitute in special education classrooms. Again, we lost some teachers in the program, but I am so pleased that we've had Kathy Smith and Debbie Dunn take such a wonderful and nurturing and just masterful approach to working with students with disabilities. They're providing them with a challenging educational offering, and when I'm in those classrooms, those students are working and the expectations are high. And I'm also pleased to let you know that we have an interview tomorrow morning with a candidate for the LIFT program, and we are in the process of scheduling an interview for that other vacancy in that self-contained program. So we are nearing completion in terms of staffing. We are still working to secure 2 social workers, although one is almost complete through the onboarding process. And we also have a need in our speech and language department. But I want to use this time just to thank the social workers and the speech and language practitioners that we have, because I can tell you that students are not feeling this impact right now because we have people going above and beyond and doing it with their heads held high. So I'm grateful to them. I'm grateful to the administrators who are very understanding in terms of where we are. It's a very difficult time, not just for Romulus, but for other school districts as well. We all know about the teacher shortage, and we all know about the special education shortage. So again, good things are happening. We're moving in the right direction, and I just wanted to provide you with that brief update. At this time, I'll ask if there are any questions.
I have a question. You said you're interviewing for the lift room. Is that a primary teacher position, or is it a support?
It's a primary teacher position.
Okay. And then, so that's, lift is 11th
Learning
and
into-
12th-ish?
Yep.
And then is there a lead teacher for the 9th and 10th
That's the one that
self-contained?
we're scheduling with now. We're
Okay.
playing phone tag. But again, in order for them to be in this role, they have to hold a CI endorsement, a
Right.
cognitively impaired endorsement. There aren't that many of them out there. I continue to search and go into that applicant pool. Even people that haven't applied for that specific position, I'm finding candidates with the credentials and making phone calls and telling them about who we are and what we're doing.
Did the teachers who were in those rooms, did they leave the district, or they have been placed elsewhere?
They left the district.
Okay. Yeah, it's because I know it's tough to find, so thank you for working on that.
Yeah, thank you.
So, just the 2 social workers and the speech and language. I know you said one is onboarding, so is it 3 spots that in your department? Well, I guess 2 until we get the, alrighty. Thank you for the update. Any other
So
questions?
much. Both resource positions are filled. Again, that's Mr. Washington and Mrs. McSweeney. Thank you, board.
Thank you. We have the report of board subcommittees. Any updates? Policy?
He's getting old.
We did.
We did. We had a meeting on Monday, prior to our governance training. We just kind of went over where the committee had left off, just kind of bringing me up to date and up to speed. We also spoke with Mr. Brock and seeing where we stand on our attendance policy and also looking at our district policies to get those updated. So he's supposed to be reaching out to Neola so that we can schedule a meeting to kind of, come on up. There you go. Because we were looking to make a schedule to meet up again, and I know Darcel and I said we would be available on the 30th and then in October, but we were trying to work around the schedule.
Yeah, so I've reached out to Neola. They're supposed to be getting back to me. I called them, I don't know, Tuesday or Wednesday after our meeting. I have yet to hear from them, so it's on my calendar to reach back out to Neola tomorrow if I don't hear back from them. But we don't have a representative from Neola in the area that I'm aware of. I used to know some of the reps in the area, but they no longer do the work. So I'm waiting to hear back from somebody from corporate, which is in Ohio, so they can come and just share some information with us.
Okay.
Transferring to Neola will be a very heavy lift.
I think,
I'm not saying that it's
no,
going to be
I
a very heavy
think
lift.
Mr. Brock was bringing it up because I know we did have our ones with Miller Johnson, Troon. And he was just thinking that maybe we were going to look and see because we've already started the legwork, so we will probably stay where we are, but just to bring that.
Having had Neola in the past in another district, I love Neola. It's just a heavy lift. They were very, very thorough, but you need a subcommittee that's active to be able to keep up. There's so many updates. They're always giving you updates, and you have the choice to add them or not.
Or not,
and,
right.
In your own language, but it takes a heavy commitment to do that. I'm not saying that it can't happen. It's just heavy lift.
Thank you.
Go ahead.
No, it's okay, I'll wait.
I was gonna say, I know the retention policy didn't pass, that was kind of left off. And then we have a policy that's not up to date, and I know that it was kind of brought where Teresa Beard, Paris, like it was something that's kind of lingering there, so can we get that at least to where we have an updated policy to a certain?
That's kind of like where we're trying to get to, because Brock was not available for us to be in person, so we're going to schedule that and also circle back around with the retention policy.
Okay.
So there needs to be some changes to the retention policy before we bring it back to the board for another
Read.
option to try to pass that. And along those lines, the part of that discussion was around, there was Teresa Beard and I spent almost a whole day together going through and revising what we thought was all the updates for our current policy. And I don't think that made it before the board, but it needs to come back before the board at some point because they've already had updates come through that we need to probably look at as a policy committee, which we can do. I mean, I think the thought process was, not that that's a heavy lift, but if we're going to look at something, it's just good to look at, see what's out there. If Neola's willing to come out and work with us, if the board decides to go with Neola or not go with Neola, that's completely up to the board. But we need to take a look at it.
Yes, trustee Powell.
My question was, Mr. Brock, as you know, when you came, was it last March? There were a lot of legal updates that had been given that we had not yet incorporated into our policy. So, President Laster, I'm wondering if, and I can forward those updates to you and to the committee, but could we bring that, at least the legal updates that are non-negotiable for approval?
I don't want to misspeak, but I want to say that that's already kind of like in the queue, because that was done by Teresa Beard. She has spent like, she said about 5 hours going through
Teresa and
line
I
by
spent the
line.
day
Yeah.
together. We spent about 3 or 4 hours together in the morning, and then I went to a meeting, and then I came back and we finished up together. So yes,
Okay.
we went through line by line, we redlined it, we went through it, and it's just waiting for you to come to the board for, I don't know why it didn't
So
come
I
before
almost
the
want to
board. but-
say, even if the retention policy, since that's kind of just ready to go, it's just kind of sitting there, and then we did the changeover. So if that's something that can be looked at to be brought forth, and then
Yeah.
we can work on the retention policy, but to have an updated policy, I feel like is priority. So that's just my
So,
ask.
yeah, and I was talking about not anything redlined, but specific legal
did all
updates
of that
that weren't,
together.
okay.
We did all
So
that
we
work
can
together.
get all of those.
We did all that together,
Okay.
so we could bring it forward as one package.
Okay.
Yep.
We'll get our schedules together and get with Brock and so we can get that done ASAP.
Thank you. Any other
Thank you.
updates?
Thank you, Mr. Brock.
Okay, we're at well, let me pass this out really quick. All right, so I have 2 action items underneath my report. The first one, Darcel, you mind reading it? For the superintendent goals? Thank you.
Madam President, move that the Board of Education approves the following 3 items for the superintendent's goals. 1, the superintendent shall establish and implement a calendar for reports to the board from the finance director, the director of teaching, learning, and professional development, and the human resources director. 2, the superintendent shall establish and implement clearly defined protocols regarding material to be included in board packets and the timing of when board packets are distributed. 3, the superintendent shall establish and implement clearly defined protocols for receiving and responding to board questions. Rationale, goal setting, no budget implications, no exhibits.
Support.
It's been motioned by Davis, supported by Wester. Any discussion?
President Laster, yes, I know when our meeting ran late, but at the end of the meeting, there were concerns brought up regarding these being the goals, and we were going to revisit that, and we don't have all members here today.
So I did send a follow-up email the next day, and I didn't get any responses, and I was very thorough in like saying that we didn't get, and that's why I wanted to stop, because everybody wasn't on board, and I feel like with this, we kind of do need to be on board. But with the legal behind the midpoint review, the checkpoints and all of that. I know this is not, if you look at a neighboring district, would this be the superintendent goals? No. But honestly, me just looking back over the weekend at how this board has conducted itself and the communication and all of that, this is how we got here. So this is where we are, I feel like, and I'm just speaking as the president. These are the goals that we have. We spent 3 hours and 45 minutes with Penny. This has been suggested by her as a facilitator, another facilitator, and it's 15% of the evaluation. It does hold weight like an appetizer, I feel, because if he does well on everything else, but this falls short, you kind of go to a B, like in the school world. You drop down some. So I feel like we didn't fully get the consensus of everyone, but the rationale and the reasoning in that 3-hour meeting, 3-hour and 45-minute meeting, was kind of ran over. But
So,
you can
right.
definitely share your concerns.
No, well, right, so my question is, I know that we had talked about the calendar that gets sent out by MESA every year, the board agenda calendar and what is addressed by month. And I know Eve had brought that to us too. So are we no longer doing that? Because this first one reads that the superintendent establishes the calendar for the board. So what if this is different? And I asked because, you know, the board has specifically talked about finance reports and when we would get those, or different reports. And those things are laid out on that calendar, but are we no longer going to use that calendar and instead put on the superintendent to establish the timing of that and when all of that gets presented to the board?
So I don't want to misspeak, and I don't want to speak for Dr. Edmondson because these are your goals. But from sitting in the meeting, I would think if I'm the superintendent, and I know that this is part of my evaluation, I'm establishing an A team. Eve is an A team. She has been a tremendous help. So you're going to work together with the person that you need to work together with to bring this forth, as you know that this is part of your evaluation. That's just how I would look at it. But you can let me know your concerns, or your views on this. The black and white is there of what the calendar should be, what it should entail. So I'm going to assume with your expertise, that's what you would do? Maybe? No? You want to speak?
Goes to what I said earlier. If you tell me this is the ends, then I deserve the opportunity to create the means. Period. That's the goal. That's the end. This is what you expect, how I do it. This is how I choose to do it with my team, as long as you get what you asked for.
And then also,
And maybe it is that MESA. Maybe it is. Maybe that's an easy way to do it, but I don't.
Just adhering to it, making sure.
I mean, I can look at it and say, yeah, hey,
Right.
this is easier.
So I guess
but
my
I'd also
question
like
is,
to
this
make
doesn't
certain-
say what we're asking for. This just simply says that, so we've been talking about board packets, and if we have a recommendation for a major expenditure, supporting documentation. So we had talked about that as a board, but that's not in here. This says the superintendent shall establish what gets included in a board packet, and when the board gets the board packet. So that really doesn't, that's not the ends leaving the means. That could leave us in the same situation where if the superintendent establishes that supporting evidence doesn't come with a recommended motion, then we don't get it because we just told him to establish what the board gets. And that's what we've been doing.
or you want me to go?
No, my response is, it was delivered by MASB.
I was going to
Not
say,
me.
yeah,
It
this
was
wasn't.
MASB, two of them, not one, two said this is what we need to do.
And
They didn't say
I
you
guess
need to.
what stepping into this role and being in the governance training, I went back, like, let me see the history of, and I guess I should have done that before running. But I went back to look at meetings before you even got here. This has always been the running theme: communication, board packets, contention between the superintendent and the president over
Right.
what's going. So I feel like because of that, and me just going back to see, that's why the guy and Penny have said, like, at least start here. Will these be the goals next year? Absolutely not. I hope not, because somebody gonna be in trouble. But right now, this is where we are. And this is not something that Dr. Edmondson said, oh, if I get you a Happy Meal, I'm good. It's not like he came up with these easy 1, 2, 3s, and I think that's what it's being looked at. Like, these are just easy. Eve can do that, and these aren't really, and I'm not saying that you're saying that, but
No,
it was
not at
like,
all.
that's what I gathered from the governance training. Like, these aren't really superintendent goals, but from people seeing our district, seeing how we communicate, seeing how we're just in that throttle, like we just go back and forth and can't communicate, this is where this came from.
Right, so I guess it brings us back to the superintendent has been establishing what information is placed in the board packet. The superintendent has been establishing when the board gets reports. The board has expressed concerns about us not having information. So to go back, these aren't really superintendent goals if there's no mention of what the board wants here.
But like you just said, they're there, they haven't been, it's like we're just out here floating through the world. It hasn't been a clear, concise, you do this. Like you're saying that, yes, we've been starting to get the board, but there's still been questions, there's still been issues. So I feel like with it being the black and white of this is what you're gonna do, this is the communication. I know it's not, clearly we're not gonna be 100% and everybody isn't here, but I don't know.
I guess I don't understand how anything changes.
But right now, nothing is, there's still an issue with how things are being done.
Right, so if we approve this, then that means that things continue, but it's
If
formally
things
that he,
continue-
it's formal that he determines what we get, as opposed to the board. Is there an expectation that if we're approving something, I don't know, contract or with a vendor or anyone that's $1 million, that we would have supporting paperwork of costs, of breakdowns, of source of funds? That's a reasonable expectation. But in here, it just says that the superintendent will establish what the board gets in their packet. That's what we've been doing, so we can vote on this and just call it formal, but nothing changes. We still may or may not get the information that's needed to make informed decisions.
And I want to say maybe, is that the whole board that feels like that? Is that certain board members that feel like they don't get that information? I feel like with this being tied to his evaluation, obviously something will come from it. We're kind of just, we have no starting point as a board, and I'm speaking as I've gotten here. No communication really. We're trying to do this. Okay, board packets have been out on Thursday, but then there's still something with that. We don't get presentations. Now the things, it's like we just need some type of starting point. I'm not saying this is just the best goals, but these are goals that were brought to us by MASB.
And we can make amendments
Who
at the
sat there
midterm.
through our,
They
they sat
Right,
there
they
through
sat
our
there, so if
stuff.
we're talking about, okay, we're talking about our board packet, we get our board packets on Thursday, and that's actually been very good, thank you, Eve, because we didn't used to have that. But as you mentioned, we don't always have the presentations, they come later. Approving this doesn't change that. So it doesn't address,
It's true accountability because it's black and white and it's tied to somebody's evaluation.
right, but it only says that the superintendent will determine what we get and when. So if the superintendent determines we get our board packet on Thursday, but presentations may not come until Sunday, nothing changes because this wording leaves it to the superintendent to establish.
So would you like it to say, because my thing is, I feel like, and I don't want to speak personally like it's me. I feel like we should be all one team.
Right.
We should want the superintendent you should just knock it out the park. So my thing as the president, and I know that that's a concern on the board, and I can speak for me, I'm going to make sure. Me and Eve have had multiple conversations. This is what the board wants. They want those presentations. She's related to the cabinet. Get them in by this date so that they're in there.
Right.
Just like Mark Graham, he added his presentation. She communicated to the board. Presentation was there. So I feel like, I know in the past there hasn't really been a good relationship with the superintendent and the president. There's been contention, but I want you to succeed. Because if you succeed, this district succeeds. We're not a clown show
Matter
on
the
YouTube.
superintendent, let's just be clear.
So that's the thing where it's like, I know this is not the best goals.
Wow.
But it's not like, what?
What?
What happened?
Oh, nothing.
There's always been
You'll watch the video.
You
Oh,
watch the
what did
video.
oh, okay. I missed it. It's been a long day.
No, but I get that, right? But if the superintendent establishes that we keep getting our board packet, and ideally we'll get our presentations, but it's not, none of that's in writing, the superintendent can't, and I'm not saying he will, but theoretically can establish that we'd have our board packets and supporting documents by the board meeting.
And he would get 8 alive with this board if he did that.
No, he could not.
But I-
Because we're leaving it to him to establish it.
Would you like that, what would you like it to say? What would you like it to be added in there? That it is,
Just the things we've talked about needing, and Jay, when we did the first evaluation, Jay Bennett, also from MASB, sent back recommendations from that evaluation that we would have finance documents with motions, that we would have regular reports, that we would follow that calendar, because if we follow a different calendar, then things are a moot point. Those things are structured to deal with board business as it occurs in each month of the year. Now, having the superintendent establish the calendar, it may or may not be relevant. What we've seen on the agenda, we're missing key things that are not on that calendar that we agreed we would follow.
Can I? Absolutely. I actually think what this is meaning, because we do have the calendar that Eve gave us, actually, he will use that same calendar to make sure that we're adhering to the meetings and things that we're supposed to be doing.
And that
That
should say
right-
that.
So we're gonna have a dissertation
No,
for each item to list everything that it's
No.
gonna cover. But I believe, and I could be wrong in what our two MASB people were saying, these were the concerns we had. So if we put that down as a goal, and we already know the things that we're looking for, it's going to push him to adhere to the things that we want. Because if we don't get it, if we don't have those meetings, he's gonna get, we can mark him down for those.
you absolutely cannot, and that's not what we're looking for, is to mark them down. We're looking to all be on the same page and be
understand
refined.
that, but
So
you're saying if he
if we're
doesn't
going
meet
to
it-
use that, then why wouldn't this say the superintendent shall implement the calendar that Eve provided to the
this
board?
seems like a precursor to the superintendent evaluation, which we all said and agreed that if it says proficiency should be 57%, we're not saying, Dr. Edmondson, you didn't go to every school and you
Right.
need to make sure proficiency is 57%. That is what the black and white says for the goal. That's what he didn't make this up. I didn't make this up. Penny and another MASB person made this up. So I feel like if we can't agree on this,
No, I get that, but establish the calendar. Ms. Rogers said that, well, the calendar means the one that Eve, I'm sorry.
My name is Wester right now till it says.
Okay.
It says it right here.
All right, so Ms. Wester said that the calendar would be the one that Eve provided to us, but that's not what the motion reads. It says that he would establish the calendar. So no, we can't mark him down if we have this expectation, but his goal is to establish a calendar. If it's not aligned, then no. I mean, you don't turn around and mark him down for that.
well, Eve established a calendar and there were still questions about
Right.
this wasn't being on there. I feel like this is where like the foundation, and I don't even want to use the word trust because that's not here right now. But you just got to go with that your leader that we have here is going to go above and beyond. I feel like you've shown that. I mean, if it was me and I know how, and I'm just going to speak candid, I know the board coming for you. They want you to mess up. Get 2 points. Don't do that. It's going to be a thing. So I know you and I know the team that you have, especially with Eve. You're going to rock it out. You want a calendar, it's going to be in 5 different languages. So, I mean, at this point, I feel like we've had discussion over, we had a 3-hour and 45-minute meeting with all board members except one. And I think we just need to go ahead and vote for it. If not, then we will be putting our district at a point where we're not setting you up fair for the midpoint to check in January, which is a legal requirement.
So my initial thought is this, is that, as long as I've been here, the target moves. The target continues to move. When I was here prior, we didn't even have, there was no rationale and budget codes and exhibits, and then you wanted exactly the codes. Like, how many times do I have to jump for this board? Every time there's a whim. We want you to do that. Oh, okay, now I got to do this. We want you to do that. Then that changes. Then, oh, we've been talking and we think you need to do this. In a subcommittee, we decided that we were going to do Google Meet or Google questions. So we do that. Then that becomes a problem. it's the target changes. It's very difficult to follow a target when it keeps changing at anybody's whim. And that's what happens at anybody's whim. What would be a problem if, I mean, when you do ask, if you do ask, it's not like I haven't done it. Because it changes. And boy, if you look at the packet over time, it has changed. Recently, you had spoken and you said the board wants, I thought it was the board, but the board wants these presentations in advance. Eve gave me something and I was like, there's no way that we can get that to the board by then. You have to have respect for the people that are doing their jobs. And in addition to that, now I have to create a packet for you a week in advance. Sometimes I'm day to day. I mean, let me just keep this real. Sometimes I'm day to day. I can't think about next week presenting. Are you kidding me? I have to go through all of this. It's not going to be till Friday that I can even do it, or a Thursday night that I'm able to do it. I can't get it out by then. But I said, we can get it done by Friday. I think I said that. I can get it done by Friday. The packet's due Thursday, but I give it to you Friday, reasonably. But then instead I get, well, we want it by Thursday. No reason, it's not reasonable to consider what we do on a daily basis. And maybe, you know, it was funny at that board meeting, they made it so simple. If you were the superintendent for a day, what would you do differently for a day? Oh, come on. Come on. This job is difficult as it is to manage all the people that I have to manage, all the things that happen on a daily basis. But now we're going to ask you to do this to get that done. I've tried to jump as many times as I could for the board. I'm tired of jumping. And at some point I'm like, hey, mark me off. Take my 15%. Take it and I'll do wonders on everything else. I can't continue to do this. It's just coming at me all the time. And that's just where I am in my life. Like I said, when I was in South Carolina, I was able to get some things off, and I'm like, this is how I'm gonna live my life now, period. This is how I'm not gonna fight. I'm not up for the fight. I'm just not gonna do it. I'm just not up for the fight. I appreciate getting this opportunity. If there's things that you want, she'll tell me, I promise you, she'll tell me. But to have to put it in writing like come on now. I mean, come on, seriously. I try to give you everything that I can possibly give you, most of the times. Nobody's playing a game with the board. I'm not trying to hide information. If you tell me, and hey, it makes sense, sure, I'll get it done. But be reasonable in terms of the time as well, that I have 6 other people that are in here with me, and they're doing their jobs. And then I say, oh yeah, don't forget you got to do your 20-page PowerPoint. Oh, okay. Doing the best, and I appreciate that. I just want honest intentions. We sat there for 3 hours, and I didn't think it was 45 minutes. I left at 9:30. Y'all were
Dr.
talking.
Edmondson, the
I left at
presentations
9:30.
aren't an issue. We
I
get the
left at 9:30.
presentations here at the table,
Okay.
just so we can follow. But yeah, that's not an issue of,
For it to be in the
okay.
board packet.
But
If we were to go back and if we were going to be fully, I'm not going to say fully transparent, but we had a president that was removed. I listened to that video. Removed for what? Not having the board packet to them on time. Did we forget that? So is it whose job is it? I'm confused. That person was removed from their seat specifically because it said board packets. I'm like, well, daggone. Whose issue is it? Whose issue? Who gets blamed this time? Me? Last time it was the president of the board who has to work with the superintendent to get the stuff in. Come on now. And I'm just saying, I saw that video. And I mean, I'm not going to say it. It wasn't funny. It wasn't anything. It's just another rhymeless moment. Another rhymeless moment. Like, at what point do we understand that it takes time to get the board packets? You have to go through several layers. Varsity tutors. How are we going to get a presentation from varsity tutors? They may not even have a presentation to give, but it was done. We're trying the best that we can to try to set you up for success, not failure. That's it. I'm comfortable with the goals. I'm like, hey, it is what it is. You know, I'll give my best, and if I get marked off, I'm good with that. I'm gonna give my best. So all you can give me is what you think I deserve.
What rang true, the protocols, communication, policy, that was the thing that we kept saying over and over. I feel like this is a start for, I mean, I hope that however this board looks in November and January, and then the year after that, that you come in with some type of, you know what's going on. You have some type of something you can look at and say, oh, okay, well, the superintendent does this and this you have something to follow. So that's my goal behind it. I want an onboarding orientation where people know what's going on, because yes, you did a phenomenal job welcoming us, but you couldn't welcome us into, organization and
Not the
clarity.
onboarding, right?
So, I mean, it's just, I feel like and I'm not saying how people should vote, but all of us on the same page would at least say, hey, we're trying. We do trust you to do your, we do trust you to do your job. Like, at least, hey, you're not gonna shortchange us, because I don't think that's in your nature to do that. You actually are extra. You probably was a kid, 500 words, you're doing 1,000.
750.
Okay, well, so with that being said, because
Need to
Ms.
count 'em
Hampton, I don't
back
want to
then,
keep
old
us here
school.
till 9, we're gonna roll. Can we have a vote?
Who moved?
Davis,
Yes.
Piles,
No.
Wester, yes, Laster.
Yes.
Motion fails.
Well, we'll see you in October, Dr. Anderson. It's actually not even funny, it's sad. Okay, rolling on. Well, I have. Okay, Darcy, thank you.
Madam President, recommended motion, move that the Board of Education accepts the following board norms as presented. We agree to, 1, keep our focus on the best interests of our students, working with parents, community, and staff. Be supportive of board decisions and the work of the district. Respect meeting times, start times, return from breaks promptly, and avoid unnecessary interruptions. Next is keep our remarks brief and to the point. Next, work towards the future based on current information. Communicate openly, honestly, and professionally. Respect each other and our differences. Give helpful feedback directly and openly. No surprises. Keep confidential items confidential. Rationale, these will be the board norms. No budget implications. The exhibits is our governance team norms.
Support.
It's been motioned by Wester, supported by Davis. Roll call.
Wester, yes. Davis?
Yes.
Piles?
Yes.
Laster?
Yes.
Motion passes.
So I just want to speak on the board norms. I know the audience is probably like, whew. We're working. I feel like when we do go to our governance trainings, people are like, wow, you're not as bad as what's out there. We do need a starting point. I feel like this is accountability. There are words on the paper, but we're all acceptable. We're all a part of the problem if we don't speak up and say something. So I feel like this is a starting point that if board members are up here and they're doing some of these things, it's our job to speak up and say, hey, we as a governance team said that this is what we were going to hold ourselves accountable to. So that's what I'm hoping that will happen going forward. All righty. Yeah, well, I don't even know what to say for my report now. I'm hopeful. I'm hopeful that I spent my weekend because my son was sick and I couldn't make it to some of the pumpkin festival things. So I watched board meetings. I said, let me go back. And I was actually, I need a life, clearly. But it's good to know, like, I went back to 05 too. I went all the way back, and then I came forward. And I'm proud to say that the board doesn't look like that now, but we still have a lot of work to do. It was hurtful to see us like, while I'm in it now, and then just to see some of the things that happened was just, man, people came out just with passionate remarks about what was going on, and just, I don't want to go back there. That was horrible. And I just feel like we have to do better. And I'm a part of this board, so I'm a part of the problem, but I want to be a part of the solution because we're all one team. So I have to be accountable for how others are acting as well. Just like if something went wrong with the money, my name up here too. So we all accountable. That's how I feel. You take on the role, you got to roll with the good and you got to roll with the bad. I've seen it on social media. It's hurtful for people to say things, and it's like, I didn't even do that. But you step into the role, it's you. And then I have another layer. I have a kid in the district, so I had to really, as a parent, say, I'm sorry. I tell you to go to school, do this, do that, keep it, stay low. And I don't even know what's coming at you as a kid and your mental health. So I had to check in on my kid like, dang, they thinking your mom is making these decisions.
Right.
And I don't want to say no, because I'm part of a team. But you're in there. I'm not. I don't have to go into school. I don't have to walk down the hall. So I had to, as a parent, say, get out of my head and say, make sure you're in class on time. Make sure you don't have your hood on. No, let me check in on your mental health. How are you doing as a board member's son? Because I don't think about what he has to endure in school. I'm not there. So I just want to, I'm very transparent. I feel like sometimes I'm too transparent. Sometimes I look back at meetings like, oh gosh, you shouldn't have said that. But one thing you will get from me is real. I'm just gonna speak my mind, and I love this district. I like working with Dr. Edmondson. I mean, I tell him how I feel. He know we don't do this, but we do a little, just a little bit, because, I just feel like to move us forward, if you're gonna be the president, however I feel about this man, I gotta try to work with you. So my boss at where I work at now, I may not agree with everything, but for the betterment of where I work, I have to work with you. That's the thing as an adult. You have to work with different personalities, different people. People say a lot of things about our board members. They're my teammates, however you put it, We don't agree sometimes. People feel like this, but at the end of the day, we got elected. We're up here, and we have to try to do the best of what we have. So I won't hold you long. I just want to say to the community, please make sure when you're sharing things that it's truth behind it, because stories that are not the truth, they just spread through Romulus because we so small. Like, for example, Wick Elementary. I got ring alerts. People, oh my God, the middle school, the middle school. I'm like, what's happening at the middle school? Eve, what's happening at the middle school? Nothing. Middle school is perfectly fine. Everything was at Wick Elementary. So I actually called Officer Cofield. I said, Officer Cofield, were any police cars at the middle school? I just would like to know, because it was just such a thing about the middle school. Not one car at the middle school. They were all at Wick. So just that situation. So you can only imagine the football field, the lockdown, how one little mistruth or one little spread of social media can just take our district down. So when you spread things or you say things, just make sure there's some truth behind it. Just like the helicopters at the high school. That was for Joe Biden, not the lockdown. So, it's funny, but it's like those little things, like Mike Ellison always says, marketing is everything and everything is marketing. When we talk, when we speak, we're marketing our district. So make sure you're telling the truth. And that's the only thing I just want to leave with. And board members, I did make sure that I talked to Cheryl Huffman. I know Judy is going as our delegate. I have not heard anything back. She said it would be 30 days from October 24th, so I'm keeping my eye on my email box for that so we can prepare her when she goes up to Lansing. And I want to thank everybody for coming out, the kids for coming out. I know it's like, whew, long day of school, and I'm here. So thank you, and thank you for the staff, too, because without you, we'd be nothing. And I mean that. So that's all I have. Board members? Everybody on mute? What's going on?
Motion to adjourn?
Support.
You done missed me.
No, you know he got
No, no, I just wanted to, listen, I was on vacation for 3 days, and, this is a 24-hour a day job, so it's not like I didn't know about WIC, and I found out, and somebody called me here, and then this person, the police called me there, and it's just, it was nonstop, and what I said is like, I needed to get away, and, that was the first time that my son had ever seen me cry. It was the first time. And, that was important, and I needed to do it. And it's just hard, and this has been a hard year already, but I'm excited about the outcomes if we can deliver on getting our parents involved and understanding the importance of education. I was thinking of both my siblings. One is educated, one is not. The one that's not is highly successful. The one that's educated didn't use the education whatsoever. So my brother, who was not in the skilled trades, but he was in computers, works for the Senate. Well, he was working for the House of Reps, doing some things, but, it's not just about your level of education. There's a work ethic that has to come with it. We've got to teach kids about a work ethic, having a work ethic, and some kids have never seen it. I'm not saying I'm not blaming parents, but if you haven't seen a work ethic, it's hard to know what one looks like. So we have a lot of work to do, not just here on this team, but, you know, as a district, we have a lot of work to do, and, you know, schools are being asked to do more and more and more, and we're all tired. We're just tired of having all these multiple roles. Also, I'm transitioning on to, I guess we tabled the goals again. Like, when are we gonna get this stuff done? I guess, is it, we gotta have a 4-3 vote to get it done, or certain people have to be here? If they wanna be here, they're gonna be here. Okay, I'm gonna say that. When you wanna be somewhere, you're there. Doesn't matter what, you're there. Okay? I'm not dogging anybody, but if it was that important, why didn't we get it done 3 hours and 30 minutes ago when we did it? 3 hours and 30 minutes, we leave and still not get it done. And then we're gonna put it on the agenda. Some of the things that we need not put it on the agenda, and this is a past district, if we know it's gonna fail, let's stop embarrassing ourselves up here, putting things on here to fail. Putting things on here to fail. It's just, it makes no sense. And again, this is where I am here. I'm not going back to where I was. I am adamant. I'm gonna work for a good institution. I hope it's this institution, but I'm gonna find a good one. If it's not, if we can't work here together, then guess what? You're gonna get yourself another one, okay? You're gonna get yourself another superintendent. I can promise you that. I wanna work for a good institution. I wanna work for 7 bosses that empower me to do my job and encourage me to do my job at a high level. That's what I wanna work for. I'm very hopeful that things are gonna change. I have to be, okay? I appreciate you as the president, and I appreciate you all giving up your time to be here. Thank you so much. But we have some work to do in this district, and we can't continue to do the same, we're doing the same things over, it's predictable. How many times have I said that? Go check the board meetings. See how many times I've talked about, it's predictable, what we go through.
It's actually eerie that 2 years to the day, it's the same, like, conversations. I said, oh, let me click off of this, but yeah.
September 27th, I'll never forget that date. Have yourselves a great day, everybody. Thank you so much for coming on out.
Motion to adjourn.
Report.
All in favor? 7:45.
Debbie, there is strawberry cheesecake in the back, like a person.